Hi, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. So today we're going to talk about what might have gone wrong for the prosecution in the YNW Melly trial, and we'll throw in a few old jokes while we're at it. So one of the ways you know you're getting old, just in case you ever wonder, is when you realize that you know jokes that people today have never heard and that are older than you are. There's a great story about prisoners who were stuck on a penal colony in Siberia. And they had all been there for 10 years, so all of the jokes that they knew were the same jokes they had come in with. So somebody sat down one day and wrote up a list and they numbered all of the jokes. As a result, whenever somebody would need a little mirth, someone would holler out 209 and everybody would crack up. A new guy got thrown in the penal colony, and over the course of a couple of weeks, he noticed people yelling out numbers and laughing, and then somebody would say, "Oh, well, that's joke number 209, which is about, and then they'd spill the joke out to him. So one day he heard joke 111, and he thought that was the most hysterical thing he'd ever heard. So a couple of days later, he yelled out 111, and nobody laughed. And so he went back to the guy who told him the joke and he said, "Are you sure that's the C?" He said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Well, how come nobody laughed?" He said, "It's the way you tell it." Well, the entire problem, in my opinion, with the Melly case is the way it was told. Imagine, if you would, the movie Star Wars. And instead of opening up with those credits that rolled up and the, Star Cruiser that's coming across to take Princess Leia into custody, imagine instead if it started out with the cantina scene. You know the one, do 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 do, that one. Imagine if that's where the movie started, and then it backtracked to some other place in the movie. I don't know, the garbage can scene or the garbage scene in the Death Star, and then it moved ahead to, or moved back to the Battle Star where they're getting Princess Leia. Imagine if it told it in that way. And then at the end, somebody said, "Okay, I need you to explain to me what this movie was about." It would be hard to do unless you'd seen the whole movie from beginning to end the way it was originally told. And the reason for that is because as a species, our native method for instruction, as well as our native method for passing information, is the story form. And stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's just the way they are. As a result of that, it is sometimes very difficult, particularly when you're working in a murder trial, because you start with the end of the story. Somebody is dead. In Melly's case, two people are dead, Juvie and Sack Chaser. And I still have to figure out what a sack chaser is. Don't tell me. It might very well offend YouTube's rules, but I just think some of the names are interesting. Anyway, you can understand where Melly came from because it's fairly close to Jamel, which is his first name. But I digress. At any rate, the whole point of telling the story when you know how it ends is to build and let people be detectives. Let them figure out what's coming next. If you ever read a good book and you go, "Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I know what's coming next. I bet you that such and such happens." And then either it doesn't happen and wow, you're surprised, or it does happen and you think, "Man, I'm a smart guy." I don't get to slap my head on the head and say I'm a smart guy very often. So when I do, you got to take advantage of it. The bottom line is you have to be aware of the storytelling process and how you get information across to a jury. And part of the problem here is that they never took the time to lay out in front the exact order in which these witnesses would appear, perhaps an opening statement, a brief summary of what they were expected to testify about, and let that lead up to the evidence as it came in. That, I think, is one of the main problems here, because when I watched this trial, the things that stood out to me were the fact that many of these witnesses did not accomplish anything significant for the prosecution, and in fact wound up hurting the prosecution. So let's take a look at just one of those, a little bit of footage from that, and then I will pick back up.
Do you remember anything the defendant said on that video?
Not verbatim, but I don't.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to read the statement you gave in 2018?
I read the statement.
Okay. Was it
I don't recall, I don't remember anything from that statement, but I do remember my deposition from December 22.
So the deposition, that would have been 6 months ago?
Yes.
Okay. I want to go, and when you spoke, you remember speaking with law enforcement in December of 2018?
I remember speaking with them, but I don't remember what they looked like, I don't remember their names, but I do remember talking to someone.
Okay. So, Ms. Holmes, I want to ask you, were you honest and truthful with law enforcement when you spoke with them?
I would hope so. I mean, it was 2018, I went through a lot in that year, so I'm not sure where my mindset was at that time.
Did you lie to law enforcement?
I would hope not. I don't remember what I said back. It was like 5 years ago.
Oh, of course. I understand it's been a long time. So, in terms of the time frame, that was closer in time to the incident of October 26th of 2018?
If that's where you guys are saying it is.
You don't even remember?
I don't remember. Because 2018 was a very hard year for me. My husband just went to prison. My father died. I had a lot going on, so
Of course.
I was really out of it.
Okay. And in terms of your conversations with the police officers that morning?
Yes. I do remember that they kind of bullied me and threatened my daughter to take her to jail for accessory after that. I do remember that.
Yes. And in terms of the statements that you made about what happened,
Yeah.
you don't have any recollection?
Yeah.
Did you read this statement multiple times?
I looked at it and I just didn't recall it, and I don't know.
And so you indicated you hoped you were truthful with law enforcement.
Yes, I did.
I have to ask you to be more definitive. Were you truthful?
I don't remember what I said to them back then, so if I was to tell you something now, I could be lying. I don't want to lie on the stand because you're going to take me to jail. So I'm saying what you want me to say.
I do not want you to say anything. I want you to tell the truth.
Okay, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Okay, that was an unforced error. There is something called the adverse witness rule. And certainly if they call this witness again, they need to use it. So you're calling somebody who is going to testify adversely to you, who is, in fact, going to lie on the stand. So the way you prevent that is you use an adverse witness rule and get the judge to allow you to use leading questions. And so the leading questions that you use are things like, you gave a statement. Yes, I did. And on that statement, you said A, B, and C, D. And then later on, you gave a deposition, right? And that was later in time than the initial interview which you had earlier on with the police officers, right? Right. Did you look at that statement? No. Did they give you a chance to look at that statement? Yes, they gave me a chance. And you didn't make any corrections or additions to that statement? No. But now you're claiming a lack of knowledge, right? Right. You only remember what you testified to at the deposition, right? Yeah, which is different than what you testified or what you told the officers at the time, correct? Yes. So how is your memory better now than it was then? And she can't answer that question, but it leaves the impression in the jury's mind, hey, she's just making this stuff up as she goes along. And so that's the way you handle a witness like this one. Or, even better, don't call them. If she was not absolutely critical to either the elements of the crime or the evidence, the physical evidence that is going to convict this guy, leave her out of it, because she's going to try and submarine you at every opportunity. You know, the instance where she said something about, I'll just say what you want me to. No, that's not what the deal is. You're supposed to testify truthfully. And that's what she did. And the worst part of it was that by putting this woman on and getting her, and when she voluntarily said, you know, I'm nervous, I feel threatened, guess who made a lot of hay out of that on cross-examination?
When you first took the stand, you said, I feel threatened.
Yes, sir, I do.
Who do you feel threatened by?
Objection, Your Honor.
Ruled.
Christine Brandon, the prosecutor's office.
This prosecutor.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Now, that is so not a good look for the prosecutor in this case. It makes her look like she's trying to bully these witnesses. And the fact of the matter is, when this woman testified, she said something to the effect of the police bullied her daughter. Um, you know, a lot of times witnesses have to be pushed in order to tell the truth. And sometimes police officers do go a little bit too far and bully somebody. But again, it would be better not to rely on the evidence than to get the impression in the minds of the jury that you are trying to bully witnesses to say things that aren't true. I believe they're trying to get them to tell the truth, not tell something that is not true. But you can understand how, given the history in South Florida and the other issues involved, how they might very well feel that somebody is being pressured to lie in order to put somebody in jail. And that's not a good look. So rather than shoot yourself in the foot by getting, a penny's worth of evidence and $2 worth of bad intent out of a witness, just leave the witness off if you absolutely do not need them to establish either identity, presence at the crime scene, DNA, something like that. Leave them off the table. Because if you put them on, all that's going to happen is exactly what happened here. And if you use the adverse witness rule, you have to use it very carefully, because the defense can use the same tactics and put words into her mouth on cross-examination. So again, you have to weigh that very, very carefully. And this is a good example of what happens when you think, well, the good outweighs the bad. Not always. I had an old drill sergeant who said that 100 attaboys is wiped out by a aw shucks, or he may have used a more scatological term, but the bottom line is you can really do yourself a lot more harm than you do good by putting up the wrong witness at the wrong time, and particularly when the storytelling has not been cohesive to that point. It was a bad look and a bad result for the prosecution in that situation. Now, perhaps the more important question is, can this be fixed on retrial? And the answer is absolutely it can. You're going to get a fresh jury. You may wind up getting a jury that saw parts of the trial. Sometimes people come into a courtroom not admitting that they, spent every lunch hour with the trial, or that they spent every night at home on YouTube watching reruns of the trial. You hope that they don't do that, but it is possible that somebody might know a lot more facts about this case now than the original jury did when the original jury was impaneled. So juror selection is going to be of utmost importance in this case. Not so much because you want to avoid people knowing something about the case, but you want to avoid them knowing the bad things that happened in the case that hurt your case. Because your case on retrial should be much more tight, it should be much more focused, and you should stay within the number of questions that are absolutely necessary to get the information that you need. You don't want it to go on beyond the point where it becomes tiresome or laborious for the jury to sit through. And retrial in this case is going to be a hard thing to sell anyway, because you've already put this man through quite a long process. Now he's going to have to pay his lawyers additional money to go up and try this case a second time. Like I said before, in some instances, this is the time when you make a deal with the defendant and say, look, we'll give you 15 years for man one if, but only if, you plead guilty right now and waive any rights to an appeal. And sometimes people will do that, sometimes they won't. I think for this young man, it's a matter of pride, and we all know where pride goes, before a fall. So we'll see what happens. I hope the state does retry the case. I hope that they give this young lady who is trying the case, Christine Bradley, I hope they give her some help. And I hope they put a different prosecutor. If they have to call this witness, right? If they have to call her, use a different prosecutor. Because you want somebody who she has never had the opportunity to visit with before to do this, so that if she says, well, I felt threatened by, Mr. So and so, well, now, isn't it funny? You felt threatened by the other person too, and this is the first time we've met. How could you feel threatened? I haven't said anything threatening to you, have I? So, again, I hope that they give her sufficient resources and sufficient support to retry this case. I had somebody comment that this is typical for Broward County, that they really don't try very hard in prosecutions. I don't know how Christine Bradley could have tried any harder, but a lot of times it's the support you get from above that matters a great deal in a case like this. That's what I have for you today. I know it's not a whole lot, but I wanted to get this out. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you have an opportunity today, do something nice. Donate something to the food bank. Go pick up a flat of green beans at Sam's and take it to the food bank and do something nice for people. There are a lot of people during the summer who have kids at home. A lot of those kids wind up with bologna sandwiches for lunch because kids tend to eat you out of house and home. It would be really nice if the food bank had lots of stuff to be able to give out, particularly during the summer. So thanks again for watching. Have a marvelous day. Catch me down here at the beach next time. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.